Plenty of them. I thought there hadn't been a swarm here in decades, Maomao said. Oh, there has been. It was just nothing big enough to bother the royal capital. That certainly was plausible, but Basin pressed the point. You didn't report them, isn't that negligence? Negligence? Let me ask you something, Sir Basin. How many crops must be consumed by the bugs before it's considered a plague? Well enough to make people's lives harder, I guess, and how much is that? So long as each person has enough grain to feed themselves, where is the problem? There are other things we can sell. So long as we make up the shortfall, there is no issue. Suppose then that we planted twice as much as normal, but then there was a swarm of insects, and in the end we only harvested the same amount as in an ordinary year. What then? Well, Basin didn't know what to say. Dr. Yu was an upper physician, and he had the wits to prove it. He spoke as if all of this were hypothetical, but it was likely something that had actually happened in the past. Increasing the size of the area to be planted would demand much greater labor and expenditure, even if the harvest remained unchanged. If the same amount of taxes were still exacted, that would make life harder. Li is a vast and wide country, Dr. Yu said, but the very greatness of its size means that the royal eye does not see all the way to its western edge. If the harvest is known only as a series of numbers, then what use is reporting a swarm of insects? It would only be dismissed. In that case, I should think it would be self-evident that the only choice for Aisei province would be to deal with the matter itself. Dr. Yu wore his heart on his sleeve, so he didn't hold back from telling Basin what he thought. This is Dr. Yu, and even he feels this way, Maomao thought. The low opinion of Jinshi in the western capital seemed to stem from the idea that the central region did not do much for Aisei province. The Moon Prince, however, did act appropriately. It reminded me of the Yi clan. Yi clan? Maomao asked before she could stop herself. Yes. Do you know them? Asked Dr. Yu, unperturbed at Maomao bursting into the conversation. Basin would have to absorb that before he could return to the talk, so Maomao decided to take over. Say, maybe we should have this discussion over some food, Dr. Yu said at last. Come now, let's eat. Food, said Tianyu, ecstatic to finally be getting a meal. Evidently, sheer lack of energy explained his silence. Whenever there was a swarm of insects, the Yi clan would step to the front and give instructions. If you'll forgive my asking, sir, weren't they rebels? Rebels, HRM. Well, anything they did, I trust they did for the sake of Aisei province. Dr. Yu took a bite of fried rice as he spoke. He said, I personally never knew any of them to be rebellious. Maomao asked what exactly were the people of the Yi clan like. She took a bite herself. The rice gave the dish plenty of body and the egg gave it plenty of flavor. This was nuanced by the spices and mussels. She shot Chu a discreet, approving thumbs up. They were beautiful, all of them. Dr. Yu continued, and if you got close to them, they had a wonderful smell. A wonderful smell, Maomao repeated. Then she said, I heard they were matriarchal. Yes, exactly. The women ran the clan. Dr. Yu explained. It's not so different from the founding story of Li itself, is it? With Wang Mu the mother royal, it's not so surprising if such a fine and powerful woman should have other accomplished women among her inner circle. The Yi clan were the descendants of those women. Maomao discovered she couldn't bring herself to continue eating. Tianyu, altogether uninterested in the story, had no such difficulties. I'm impressed you knew about that element, that they were matriarchal. Dr. Yu was openly appreciative of her. Miss Chu knows too, and so do I, added Basin. Those who served the imperial family probably learned of these things as a matter of course, but the average citizen of the central region would see no reason to know anything about the rulers of a land far to the west, especially rulers who had been annihilated long ago. It was probably because they were women that they defended the border so stubbornly. The Yi clan took no husbands, yet they always had the most beautiful children. They looked like they had come from some other country. Their female children the Yi clan raised to be rulers, and their male children they would send out on the road. It was the continual mixing of blood that produced the beautiful people, and which helped keep other countries in line. They got along particularly well with Shao, with its shrine maiden, but the former Empress Dowager, the one called the Empress Regnant, perhaps didn't get along with her so well, even if they were both women. I'll refrain from commenting on the quarrels of women, Maomao said. Nonetheless, she had learned something very surprising, something Jinshi had never mentioned to her. Perhaps she was the only one present who hadn't known. So where were you 17 years ago, Dr. Yu? Maomao asked. Already practicing medicine in the central regions, I'm afraid. Oh, as Maomao and Dr. Yu talked, Basin finished his fried rice and set down his spoon with gusto. He must have absorbed the moment while he was eating, because he said, I see what you're saying, Dr. Yu. The Moon Prince is now paying the bill for a central region that has done nothing. Fine, let's assume you are right about that. It doesn't change the fact that all of his successes now are being credited to Sir Yu Jiakuo, and I have to say I don't like that. And you bear part of the blame, Doctor. Me, how? People take you to be acting on behalf of Sir Jiakuo on account of your name. Really? He looked to Tianyu for confirmation. Or Dr. Li said the same thing, remember? He said you should start every interaction by mentioning that you'd come from the central region. He meant you should say you were there on the Moon Prince's orders. Tianyu didn't seem very happy about having to explain it all. He had some rice stuck to his cheek. What a strange thing to say, I come from the central region. I don't, I come from around here. A lot of the people we've seen even know me. Well, then just say you're here on the imperial younger brother's orders or something. HRM. Doesn't that make it sound like I'm claiming to be close to the imperial family? It's a bit embarrassing. Huh, said two voices at once. What was this guy talking about? He'd gone to the big city and made his fortune, and now he was too shy to let his friends and acquaintances celebrate him for it. Miss Maomao, can I think of him as being in the same category as Mr. Quack? I don't know, I don't think he quite fits into the adorable old guy box. Put him somewhere else. Closer to the duck, maybe. Understood. Maomao thought she had a pretty good idea what this category was that Chu was picturing. Anyway, Dr. Yu was saying anyone from these parts ought to know the difference between the old Yus and the new ones. The old and the new what? Maomao asked, tilting her head. The Yu family of doctors is the older Yus. Jiakuan and his kin came later. Now he has a whole big family, children and grandchildren of all kinds. But when Jiakuan and his wife first got here, it was just them and their only child, their oldest son. Although they did bring plenty of servants with them. I don't know. I think even a local would have to be at least 40 years old to be aware of the difference, Chu suggested. And among commoners, whose lives often barely extended into their 50s, there were not that many people older than 40 to know the difference. Moreover, Jiakuan and his family were the face of the Western capital now. To younger people you would almost certainly mean Jiakuan or Jiakuo. Huh, so that's how it is, Tianyu muttered. I'm surprised. I thought for sure the family was way older than that, said Maomao. There was a time when people started coming here to do trade. I think they moved here around then. You could find out exactly when if you checked the family register, Dr. Yu replied. No, I don't think you could. The family register has been burned up, Chu said as she sipped some goat's milk. That's a shame. So anyway, you just make sure to tell your patients that it's by the Moon Prince's good graces you're treating them, said Chu, driving home the point in lieu of basin. Do you suppose I have to? The old but not that old guy said, looking abashed. You're not even afraid of some thugs, Dr. Yu, so how can you possibly be embarrassed about this? Quiet, Tianyu, he snapped. Apparently he was the kind who was embarrassed to make himself look too good, even if he had the ability. He had probably only managed to become upper physician because he had Dr. Liu for a boss. Dr. Liu looked for good people and found them. Excuse me, someone said, now looking fixedly at Maomao and the others. If you are done eating, could you get out here and relieve me? It was Dr. Li, looking reproachfully through a crack in the door. Chapter 14. Tianyu. After some discussion of how to handle Dr. Yu's shy streak, it was determined that Jinshi should grant him some object he could wear or carry. As long as all I have to do is wear it, said the good doctor, but he was effectively convinced. Maomao thought such a gift was likely to get him even more fawned over than just saying he was there because of the Moon Prince, but she wasn't sure he realized that. They should just give him a sash or a jade ring to put on his belt and be done with it. It had been decided that Dr. Li should get something as well, and he, for his part, was much honored. When they told him after work, he actually refused. Surely there is no reason for me to have anything, Dr. Yu exclaimed. Dr. Li looked at his boss uneasily. Is it just the two of them? Tianyu asked. If Dr. Li doesn't want his, I'll take it. My name is Li too. It was true that Dr. Li and Tianyu sharing the same surname caused no end of trouble. Maomao certainly wasn't privy to Dr. Li's personal name. Lihaku was there as well, meaning there were at least 3 Lis in that room. You're not getting it, Dr. Li snapped. It couldn't be easy having such distinctive personalities both above and below him. Well, it's getting late. I think we should be on our way home, Chu said, packing her belongings. The clinic was closed for the evening. Chu was highly capable at everything she did, and that seemed to extend to cleaning a room. Then she asked, say, what's this package? Maomao thought Tianyu had brought it back with him. Oh, that's just Tianyu tried to swipe the package from Chu, but it fell. The contents went rolling across the floor. Everyone looked on in silence. They were lucky that Basin and the other guards had gone to the bathroom and weren't there for this. Say, young lady, said Lihaku, giving Tianyu a grim look. You think I should restrain this guy? He looked like he meant it. No, let's see if we can find out what's going on here first, Maomao said, taking another look at the scattered contents of the package. It was a human arm. Just an arm, a single human body part lying there on the floor. It didn't get much weirder than that, but the people in the room at that moment included the doctors Maomao, Lihaku and Chu. Care to explain the arm? Maomao asked. I mean, look at it. I don't think it can be reattached, not with the way it was cut off, Tianyu said, picking up the appendage and blithely showing them the state of the stump. It was a mess, all right. It didn't look likely to stick even if they tried to reattach it. The grasshoppers chewed through a rope that was securing a sign. The sign fell down and the arm popped right off. The man it used to belong to said he didn't need it anymore, so I took it. You took it? The man had probably been very sad to lose his arm. Maomao figured he thought Tianyu would take it to give it a proper burial, not to do whatever this was. Nying, I thought maybe you and I could dissect it together. He was interrupted by Dr. Li, who plucked the arm away from him, then tapped his head with a knuckle. Ooh, he is strong. Yow, ow. I was just trying to learn something, Tianyu objected. That's enough from you. We are going to bury this and bury it properly. And don't just leave it there, it stinks. Or, Tianyu glowered at Dr. Li's back. Dr. Li has gotten stronger, Maomao thought. People sometimes change when they are pushed beyond their limits. Dr. Li had seemed fragile for this assignment, but he had transformed into good material indeed. Perhaps Dr. Liu had seen it in him all along, and that would be impressive. Tianyu, meanwhile, could be a little frightening, just look at what was happening. But if there was one good thing Maomao could say about him, it was that nothing ever fazed him. They also absolutely could not give him Jinshi's token. Dr. Li dragged Tianyu out of the room to bury the arm. The clinic wouldn't see anyone as long as the two of them were away. If any patient saw two of the medical personnel burying an arm, who knew what rumors would start? They asked one of the guards to stand watch while they worked, specifically so that no one would see them. Dr. Yu turned to Lihaku and Chu with a smile. Let's just pretend we didn't see that, shall we? We shall. Far be it from Miss Chu to have loose lips. I understand, Lihaku said. The doctor's dissections were technically forbidden and were supposed to be secret. At least these two would know how to play along. Maomao studied Dr. Yu, who smiled so readily as he tried to keep things under wraps. Something the matter, Nying? It's not Nying, sir, it's Maomao. Really? All right, Maomao then. Maomao, right, I'll remember that. Anyway, is everything okay? Everything is fine, sir. I was just thinking you seem to be awfully nice to the younger doctors. There was a hint of contempt in her words, but Dr. Yu seemed unruffled. He kept smiling. Ah, you mean Tianyu? It was Dr. Liu and I who drew him into this world, so I feel some responsibility toward him. Tianyu's quick to gripe about nepotism, but he's benefited more than anyone else from his connections. He crossed his arms and nodded as if to affirm his own point. You and Dr. Liu got him into medicine. What connections do you mean? Maomao asked, puzzled. Oh, you do know. As much as Tianyu likes to stick his nose into other people's business, he doesn't volunteer much about himself. Then again, Maomao hadn't asked either. You want to know about Tianyu then? Since you will be working with him in the future, Dr. Yu asked as he cleaned up his tools. Do you think that is all right? If I know Tianyu, the only reason he hasn't volunteered the information is because nobody has asked him. Fair enough. Maomao couldn't criticize, much the same applied to her. He comes from a family of hunters. I remember going with Dr. Liu to get some bear gall once. We found a kid, maybe you could call him a young man, just dissecting the bear all by himself. He was careful and precise, totally unbothered by any of it. He plucked out only and exactly the organs we needed. Even Dr. Liu was impressed. And that boy was Tianyu. Dr. Yu continued to clean up as he spoke, so Maomao kept making medicine while she listened. That's how you discovered his talent and put him on the path to becoming a physician? She asked. But that makes it sound like he got the job because of his skills, not his connections. It was his connections in a way. I said to his father, the hunter, I said, ever thought about sending your boy to be a doctor? I was only joking, but he went pale and started to shake. If he knew what the doctors did in secret, maybe it didn't sound like such a joke to him. The way his fear manifested, though, was strange. Why would he be afraid of a doctor's work? Yes, it could be unsettling to the average person, but Maomao would have expected a hunter to understand. I asked him why he was so upset, but he wouldn't tell me. In fact, he practically chased us out. What did you think was going on? For the moment there was nothing for us to do but go home, but Tianyu came chasing after us. He begged us to make him our apprentice. He knew his father would oppose it, but he was ready to run away from home to do it. Of course you know, Maomao, that Dr. Liu isn't the kind to just let a little boy tag along and abandon his family. That's true. She could practically picture it. Tianyu said to us that he was a descendant of Kada and that doctoring must be his vocation. Kada, sir. Maomao couldn't help it. She stopped working and looked at Dr. Yu. That's right, but not the famous physician of legend. It was the Kada who was punished for cutting up the body of an imperial prince to satisfy his intellectual curiosity. You do the work of a doctor, Maomao. I'm sure you've heard the story. Yes, sir. Long ago there had been a doctor called Kada because of his superlative medical knowledge and skills. But the combination of skill and ambition can make a man curious, and Kada's curiosity got him severely punished. If Kada had in fact been a real person, there was no reason his descendants shouldn't still exist, but they might very well be invested in making sure that they didn't repeat the mistakes of their forebear. So Kada's descendants became hunters? Maomao asked. It makes sense, doesn't it? Hunters have been connected to doctors' work in the gathering of medical materials since ancient times. It is perfectly plausible that Kada might have become involved with some hunter's daughter, and when a name is passed down, why shouldn't it be the more famous name? Maomao had to admit that made sense. So you made Tianyu a doctor because he was Kada's descendant? She asked. No, not at all. Neither his talent nor his lineage was a reason to just make him a physician. If anything, the reason was his eyes. Dr. Yu stopped and heaved a sigh. He was holding a small knife slick with human fat. He must have used it in the course of his work. Dr. Liu said that if we left him to a hunter's life, in time he would come to carve up humans just as he did bears or deer. Maomao was silent at that. She couldn't deny it. In fact, she was all but convinced that he absolutely would have done exactly that. By nature, the human animal follows its desires. By educating a person, we create what we call rationality. But even then, not everyone can overcome their appetites. Dr. Yu wiped the knife clean and put it in a basket. Tianyu's appetite takes the form of curiosity, and he cannot overcome it. It was Dr. Liu's considered opinion that when he tired of animals he would turn to people. Who knows how many folks a hunter living alone in the woods could dismantle before anyone noticed? You don't think that might still be a problem, even as a doctor? Maomao asked frankly. That's a matter of the path he's guided down. At least that's what Dr. Liu said. Any ship will steer straight if you keep a firm hand on the rudder. Dr. Liu can be a harsh man, but he has a softer side. If you say so, Maomao replied, not quite believing it. She did, however, believe the story of Tianyu's origins. Why are you telling me all this? Officially, she was nothing more than help for the real doctors. There was no need for Dr. Yu to go out of his way to let her in on this story. Oh, no reason. Seeing the results of Liu Hemen's teaching just put me in a talkative mood, I guess. He knows Pops. Dr. Yu had been a physician for a long time. It wouldn't be surprising if he and Liu Hemen knew each other. I wonder if I hadn't had my old man to raise me, would I have looked the same way to them? Much as she hated to admit it, she and Tianyu shared a similar temperament in some ways. If Liu Hemen hadn't been there, running his apothecary shop in the pleasure district and raised her himself, she had no idea how she might have turned out. They must be about done burying that arm, Dr. Yu observed. Shall we go back? All right, Maomao said and got ready to leave. She knew Tianyu would soon return, probably shuffling in with his shoulders slumped, but she resolved not to show him any particular sympathy. If anything, she intended to kick his ass and tell him to get a move on. The visit to the clinic had gone without a hitch, but there was still the trip home, and it would be a long one. The problem started almost as soon as Maomao stepped out the clinic door. Miss, Lihaku shouted, grabbing her and pulling her back. At the same moment a ball of mud landed with a splat at her feet. You brought the bugs, it's your fault, a child shouted. Maomao looked around, but she couldn't tell where they were. Miss Maomao said Chu, who had come up behind her. I saw who it was, I could still catch them. What do you want me to do? She was asking Maomao because Maomao had been targeted. I'm sure glad it was me, she thought. Maybe the child had chosen her for a target because she looked like the slowest moving one. They were just lucky they hadn't picked Basin. It didn't even hit me, she said. There's no need to haul them in, Miss Chu. She supplemented this with a look that said absolutely do not go after that child. Understood, that was easiest for Chu as well. What good would it do them, chasing down and collaring a child here and now? Once they had caught them, they would have to punish them. It was all well and good if they could be let off with a gentle smack on the behind. But if there was a pretext, if, for example, they got violent with a lady-in-waiting serving the representative of the emperor's younger brother, that modest spanking could quickly become 100 lashes. Maomao didn't want that, and Chu probably didn't either. Although knowing her, she would do it if I asked. Sometimes, though, discretion truly was the better part of valor. It might sound like she was being soft, but Maomao thought the world could use a bit more softness sometimes. We brought the bugs, did we? Funny, considering the bugs came from the west, she muttered. It didn't make sense. Yes, and we came from the east, Chu added. That wasn't really what the child had meant by bring. Those who believed in charms, curses, and other superstitions saw only a plague of insects that coincided with the arrival of people in the western capital who didn't belong there. Of course they would blame the swarm on the visitors. Maomao would have loved to sit the kid down and explain the reality, but she doubted she would get through to them.